terms of another factor to think about when trying to decide at this stage where you're going to apply to, how is it taught? Do you like to be taught in a lecture style, so didactic learning where you're given the information in a setup perhaps similar to this, or do you prefer to be a bit more inquisitive and work in small groups in more of a problem-based or directed learning style, whereby you're working with your peers, you'll be given questions and support, but you do a lot of the legwork in terms of finding out the information. So think about how you learn best, because if you're not enjoying a particular subject at university, you're probably not going to do the best that you can in comparison to do if you're learning the way you enjoy, and also how it's assessed. You know, ask us at the stands as to how it's assessed, how it's taught, so that you can pick the right university degree course for yourself. That said, with veterinary medicine being practical, as I mentioned earlier, there is a variety of teaching and assessment methods. We're not going to teach you how to do any stitching or suturing in a lecture format. We're going to get you to do it and show us that you can do it in terms of assessing that. So there is a variety, but universities will have an overriding sort of teaching structure, whether that be lecture style or whether that be directed or problem-based learning. When you get to the final year, so usually this is from the middle of your fourth year onwards, you are solely in hospitals within the university that you're studying at. So you're essentially a veterinary surgeon or working as a veterinary surgeon, but under supervision of qualified veterinary surgeons. So again, it is a practically based course. What A-levels are required? Some schools prefer 3 sciences at A-levels, others might not have a preference. So don't waste an application. If you're applying to a school that's asking or prefers 3 sciences and you're only doing 2 sciences, then is it worth making that application? Speak with the members of staff, they'll tell you whether it is or not. If you're doing qualifications outside of A-levels, so if that's BTECs or City and Guilds or Welsh Bac or anything such as that, come and ask us and say, do you accept it? And whether you can get the grades that they're asking for. Again, don't waste an application. In terms of resits, ask us whether we accept resits. Modular means you take a resit within the 2 years of your level 3 qualification, so A-level or equivalent. Whole means you've done a whole A-level or equivalent qualification again. So it's worth asking us whether we accept it, and also the likelihood as to whether you would be successful in an application having resat a particular module or modules. To give you an example, with ourselves, we have no problems with resits as long as you're getting an A grade in that resit. So, because that slide was horrible, I thought I would give you a general feel, and this isn't institution specific, which you obviously need to be considering. We're looking for good GCSE grades, so usually that means 5 A's at GCSE, including the sciences, and no less than a B in English language and maths. In terms of A-level, it ranges from A-star and 2 A's. Bristol and Cambridge are considering or are using the A-star. At the minute, to my knowledge, the rest of us aren't using that. Going down to 2 A's and a B. Liverpool also looking at the AS grade as well. IB tends to be around 36 overall points, and highs ranging from 766 to 36s, with highest in the science subjects. BTECs tends to be 3 distinctions and certain modules required. So why are we asking for such high academic achievement from you? In addition to the fact that it's a very intense programme, it's also very competitive. So you'll see last year there were over 9,000 applications to veterinary medicine. That's the shock figure that probably gets blown out of proportion and gets turned into myths. Consider that you can make 4 applications to veterinary medicine programmes yourselves. You can almost divide that by 4. However, obviously not all students will choose to apply to 4 institutions. They'll go through the process of making sure they're applying to the right school for themselves. It could be less than that. Although this is an approximate figure based on several years' worth of research on places, there are going to be variances on this. And the shock figure tends to be, more competitive than medicine. Yes, in terms of getting into veterinary medicine, it is competitive. So for us, we have around 8 applicants to every 1 physical place on average every year, which is a scary figure that probably gets sort of embellished as the stories go on. But consider the fact that universities, on the whole, will make a lot more offers than they have physical places. The reason for that is some students, unfortunately, aren't going to get the grades, so aren't going to be able to accept their offered place because it is a conditional offer. Other students will choose different institutions. So you might get an offer, let's say, from Liverpool and the RVC, and you'll accept one as your firm and one as your insurance. But your preference, because it's closer to home, is Liverpool, let's say. So you're going to reject our offer or not turn up to our offer because Liverpool's your first choice. So we have around 200 places every year. We will make around 400 or over 400 offers every year. So that dramatically changes the fact that around 8 applicants to every 1 physical place, around 1 in 4 is actually receiving an offer from us. So yes, it is competitive, but it's not as bad as the myths may suggest. If you get to interview, no university will invite you to interview unless they think you've got what it takes to be successful on the programme. So make sure you spend time revising, looking at your application, so that you show to that institution you are the person on the paper, because that's all we're looking to do. We're looking to see the person who's applied is the person we think they are. I'll come on to interview slightly later. So in terms of the application process, as I keep harping on, make sure you choose the right university for yourself, not only in terms of matching your aspirations with your predicted achievement, but also in terms of just a gut feeling. Go on open days, go on campus tours, any visiting opportunity you can, because you get that gut feeling. You'll come onto campus and think, yes, I can feel myself as a student here, or you'll think, actually, it's a great institution, but I just can't see myself as a student here. And I would say that's vitally important to do before the first day of term. If you've done all the revision, got your fantastic grades, and then you join a university and think, actually, I don't quite feel part of this institution, that's not necessarily an ideal situation to find yourself in. So do visit if you can. So you've got 4 of your 5 choices that can be medical, so that includes veterinary medicine, obviously, and you've got 1 insurance choice. All universities, we can't see where you've applied in addition to us. So don't be scared, think that, because I know Liverpool and Nottingham are sort of fairly close together, Nottingham won't look at me if I've applied to Liverpool, or anything such as that. We only see that you've applied to ourselves, and there's no ranking system anymore, so it's alphabetised. Make sure you get your application in by the October the 15th deadline, because if you don't, then you're not going to be successful. In terms of Cambridge and ourselves, we ask you to sit what's called the Biomedical Admissions Test, or BMAT examination. And this is something that you need to register for and sit within the year of application, and it almost runs alongside the UCAS application process. So September you register, then you'll sit a test in early November, with the results being made available towards late November. And all institutions that you've applied to who ask for this BMAT examination will automatically get your test results. So you don't need to send them on or anything like that. Where do you sit this test? It's sat locally. If you go on the website, they've got past papers with the answers, as well as being able to find your local testing centre. You'll probably find that it's a local grammar school or a further education college. It's a 2-hour paper split into 3 sections: general problem solving, science problem solving, and a writing or essay question. We look at all 3 sections with a slight bias towards the science section for obvious reasons. And if you ever hear the stories in the paper that a student's been getting A's since they were 6 months old, they've got years and years worth of work experience but didn't receive an offer or didn't even get called to interview for the Royal Veterinary College, it's probably because they didn't get a good biomedical admissions test score. This is the last filter that we have in terms of deciding of who to invite to interview. And you might be sitting there, well, why do different schools ask for different things in terms of the entrance requirements, whether or not there's an entrance examination? And the reason for it is just predictors of success on the programme. All of us will look at cohorts graduated as the years go on and relate that to their application and see, did the grade that they got at chemistry or biology or any other science predict success on the programme, and we'll look at all students that way. So that's why we ask for slightly different things in terms of requirements. One thing we're all looking for is work experience. We would strongly advise doing as much and as varied as possible. Yes, you need to meet the minimum requirements and you need to meet them at application stage. However, the more you've seen, hopefully the more you've learnt because you've engaged in those particular placements. We know that you're not necessarily going to be able to work with every particular species in every particular setting, but we would advise that you aim to do that, because if you just think, oh, I really like equine medicine, I'm just going to get work experience with horses, then when it comes to interview, when it comes to applying, a university might look at that application and think, well, does the student know that within the UK you're qualifying as an omni-competent vet, so you're focusing on all those species that I mentioned earlier. We want you to have an understanding of the profession, and one of the ways you can demonstrate that is by showing a varied work experience. If you are sitting here thinking, I didn't do enough sciences, then Nottingham have a course available possibly to yourself. If you aren't quite getting the grades, then Bristol, Nottingham or the RVC might have an opportunity available to you potentially with a foundation year essentially. And if you're thinking of doing a degree programme in biosciences, zoology, and then applying for a graduate entry, then Liverpool ourselves and Edinburgh have an option. What I would say about this is consider the fact that you only get a tuition fee loan for your first degree programme. So if you do a zoology, you'll get a student loan for that programme. You will then have to find the tuition fees up front each year for your accelerated programme. So a minimum of £9,000 a year is quite a lot of money just for tuition to find up front. So if you are you might be unsuccessful or might not quite get the grades, think about looking into the schools which accept resits and reapplications, because that would be quicker and also cheaper in terms of the investment in yourself.